On Friday, May 15th, Donald Trump left Beijing. He had spent 2 days with Xi Jinping. He got a 21-gun salute, he got a state banquet, he got children waving flags, he got a beef import license, and then he flew home. Less than 24 hours later, Vladimir Putin announced he was flying to Beijing. The man fighting the war Trump came to solve, the man whose invasion of Ukraine triggered the sanctions that isolated Russia from the Western world, the man whose army is fighting Ukrainian soldiers right now, today, on a front line that has consumed nearly 1.5 million casualties in 4 years. That man is flying to the same city, to meet the same leader, to sit in the same great hall of the people, to discuss, in the Kremlin's own words, key international and regional issues. Let that sequence sink in. Trump arrived in Beijing on Wednesday, left on Friday. Putin arrives Tuesday, leaves Wednesday. In the same month, in the same city, with the same man. For the first time in history, the leader of the world's most powerful democracy and the leader of the world's most isolated military power are both being hosted by the same country within days of each other. Not at a multilateral summit, not at the United Nations, in Beijing, by invitation, one after the other. This is Global Faultlines, and what Xi Jinping has just done in the space of 1 week is the most consequential act of strategic positioning by any world leader in 2026. This is the full picture. To understand why this sequence of visits is so significant, you need to understand the position Xi Jinping has been building for the past 4 years, because it did not happen by accident. When Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, China faced a defining strategic choice. It could condemn the invasion and side with the international consensus. It could endorse the invasion and align itself openly with Russia. Or it could do something far more sophisticated. It could stay officially neutral while deepening its relationship with Russia in ways that benefited Beijing economically and strategically, and simultaneously present itself to the West as a potential mediator whose cooperation was needed to resolve the conflict. Xi chose the third option, and it has worked. China is now by far Russia's largest trading partner. All transactions between the two countries are conducted in Russian rubles and Chinese yuan, not in dollars. Putin himself confirmed this. China has become the economic lifeline that has allowed Russia to sustain a war that Western sanctions were designed to make impossible. At the same time, China has consistently presented itself as neutral in the Ukraine conflict. Xi has offered to mediate. Chinese diplomats have engaged with both Ukrainian and Russian officials. And the West, needing China's cooperation on Iran, on trade, on technology, has been careful not to push Beijing too hard on its Russia relationship. The result? Xi Jinping enters this week having heard from Donald Trump everything that America wants from China. And in 2 days, he will hear from Vladimir Putin everything that Russia needs from China. He is the only leader on earth who will have sat across from both men in the same month and heard their full strategic calculations directly. That is not neutral. That is the most powerful position in the world. Now let us examine the specific details of Putin's visit, because they reveal exactly what Russia needs from this summit and what China is likely to provide. The Kremlin announced that Putin's trip to Beijing on May 19th and 20th is timed to coincide with the 25th anniversary of the 2001 Sino-Russian Treaty of Good Neighborliness and Friendly Cooperation, the foundational document of the modern Russia-China relationship. Following the talks, according to Euronews and CNBC, the two leaders are expected to sign a joint statement at the highest level, as well as several bilateral intergovernmental and interdepartmental documents. Putin will also meet separately with Chinese Premier Li Qiang to discuss economic and trade cooperation. This is not a casual visit. Joint statements and intergovernmental agreements require weeks or months of preparation. The specific substance of what will be signed has not been publicly disclosed, but based on the documented trajectory of the Russia-China relationship and the specific pressures Russia is under in May 2026, the strategic logic is clear. Russia needs China's continued financial and economic support to sustain a war that is consuming approximately 38% of its federal budget. Russia needs Chinese components, particularly for its drone program. Al Jazeera reported that Reuters and other agencies have documented Chinese firms shipping drone engines to permitted Russian assembly plants, mislabeled as industrial refrigeration units. China has denied this, but the documentation exists. Russia needs Chinese diplomatic backing at the United Nations and in international forums where it faces persistent isolation. And Russia needs China to resist any pressure from the United States, which Trump applied directly to Xi during his visit, to use its relationship with Iran to help resolve the Strait of Hormuz crisis in ways that would benefit Washington. In exchange, China is getting something invaluable. It is getting Russia's continued dependence. A Russia that needs China economically, diplomatically, and militarily is a Russia that will not challenge Chinese interests in Central Asia, in the Arctic, or in the broader Eurasian theater where the two countries' strategic interests could potentially conflict. Russia without China's support cannot sustain its war in Ukraine. Russia with China's support can. Beijing knows exactly what that leverage is worth, and it is collecting on it. Here is the dimension of this story that most coverage is missing, and it is the dimension that changes the entire geopolitical picture. South China Morning Post reported that Putin's visit will make China the first country to host all 4 other leaders of the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council within months of each other. The United States, United Kingdom, and France have all engaged Beijing at senior levels in recent months. Russia arrives Tuesday. The 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, the 5 countries with the power to veto any Security Council resolution, are the United States, Russia, China, the United Kingdom, and France. In a matter of months, all 5 have come to China. Not to New York, not to Washington, not to Geneva, to Beijing. The UN Security Council was designed in 1945 to manage global peace and security. Its permanent members were chosen because they were the powers whose cooperation was considered indispensable to that mission. In 2026, 4 of those 5 powers are coming to the 5th to discuss the world's most urgent problems. That is not a coincidence. It is the visible expression of a fundamental shift in where global diplomatic gravity has moved. Let us now examine what Xi Jinping knows after this week that no other leader on earth knows. He knows everything Trump told him about the Iran war. He knows America's red lines on nuclear negotiations. He knows Trump's thinking on Taiwan and the $14 billion arms package. He knows what America is willing to offer and what America is not willing to concede. He knows the internal political pressures, the House deadlock on war powers, the declining approval ratings that are constraining Trump's options. He knew all of that before Trump's plane left Chinese airspace. And now, in 2 days, he will know everything Putin needs from this meeting. He will know Russia's assessment of the battlefield in Ukraine. He will know the state of Russia's economy and how desperate the need for continued Chinese support actually is. He will know Putin's position on any potential peace framework. He will know what Russia's red lines are and what it might be prepared to accept. No American intelligence assessment can replicate that. No Western diplomatic channel can produce that kind of direct, candid, bilateral information from both sides of the world's 2 most consequential conflicts simultaneously. Xi Jinping will have it, by Wednesday evening, from the mouths of both principals, within 5 days of each other. This is why the South China Morning Post described the week as a reflection of Beijing's efforts to position itself as a pivotal power amid an increasingly fractured world order. That framing understates what has actually happened. This is not positioning. This is the exercise of the most sophisticated strategic leverage available to any leader in 2026. There is one final dimension that requires direct analysis. The no-limits strategic partnership between China and Russia was announced in February 2022, just days before Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. That timing was not coincidental. Putin visited Beijing for the Winter Olympics. He and Xi met. They announced no limits, and then Russia invaded. The question that every Western government, every Ukrainian official, and every serious analyst of global security must now ask is, what will Xi and Putin agree to on Tuesday and Wednesday? The Kremlin said they will discuss key international and regional issues. That phrase covers everything. It covers Ukraine, it covers Iran, it covers Taiwan, it covers the Strait of Hormuz. It covers the architecture of a post-war settlement that neither Russia nor China has publicly articulated, but that both have strategic interests in shaping. Xi will sign a joint statement with Putin at the highest level. Documents will be signed, agreements will be made, and the world will learn about them in official readouts that will describe broad commitments to partnership and cooperation, while the specific strategic understandings reached in private remain exactly that, private. Trump left Beijing with a beef import license and an invitation to host Xi at the White House in September. Putin is arriving with the 25-year foundation of the world's most consequential bilateral partnership, and a war to sustain, an economy to protect, and a diplomatic lifeline to secure. Xi Jinping is meeting both of them, in the same week, in the same city. That is not neutrality, that is control. This is Global Faultlines. We track the forces shaping the world, not just the events, but the structural shifts those events reveal. What Xi Jinping has done this week is demonstrate that the center of global diplomatic gravity is no longer Washington, it is not Moscow, it is not Brussels, it is Beijing. And the two most powerful men in the world, one who launched a war and one who is trying to end one, both came to the same man to ask for help. One left without the help he needed, the other has not arrived yet, but he is coming. If today's analysis gave you a clearer picture of how global power is actually shifting, share it, subscribe, come back. This is Global Faultlines. See beyond the headlines.